when you have 54 former attorneys general from throughout the United States, both Republicans and Democrats, all agreeing that this case had severe irregularities. When they say that that the judge gave the wrong jury instruction, that there was no crime committed, then I think the 11th Circuit has got to take notice.
Your theory of this case is basically that you were targeted for political prosecution because the Republicans didn't like you as a popular Democratic governor of Alabama. Is that it in a nutshell?
That's basically it. The Grant Woods, who is a former Republican Attorney General from Arizona, said almost precisely that on 60 Minutes. He said that they couldn't beat this guy, meaning me, fair and square in an election, so they prosecuted. And what's interesting about the prosecution is the way it came about. The prosecution was conducted by the wife of my opponent's campaign manager. They brought me to trial during the election. The indictment came during the course of the election, and my trial was set 1 month before the actual Democratic primary.
There was a very strange anomaly in your case where when you went to bed the night of the election, it appeared that you had won, and then you woke up the next day and the votes had been flipped. And can you kind of go into that a little bit?
Well, that was in 2002 when I was running for re-election, and
okay.
On election day we won. We went to sleep, and votes were electronically shifted after midnight, after the polls had closed, by people associated with my opponent, and also associated with Karl Rove. And votes were basically stolen electronically.
There's been some question about when you were targeted. Do you have any idea of like day, month, year, exactly when they decided, when Karl Rove decided to target you, or this gang?
Well, all we know, from the chronology is that it was shortly after I endorsed Al Gore,
And that
when
was,
the investigation was started by Karl Rove's client.
that was 2000.
99.
99.
And then the federal investigation began after the administration changed from Clinton to Bush, and new U.S. attorneys were appointed. In my case, I was convicted of bribery, but I was convicted based solely on the testimony of a felon who had cut a deal to change his sentence from 10 years to 1.5 years. He gave false testimony that the prosecutors knew was false. They made him practice his testimony. They made him write it down 70 times. 70 times he had to rewrite his testimony until he got it right, according to 60 Minutes. And then they brought him into the courtroom. So I was only convicted because the federal government put on somebody whom they knew was going to give false testimony.
And has he since recanted?
Well, no, he hasn't recanted, but he did tell 60 Minutes what I just told you.
That they made him do it 70 times?
Yeah. They made it write it down over and over until he got it right.
There's been a lot of talk about the politicization of the Department of Justice, and your case kind of ties in with the U.S. Attorney scandal that's swirling around Washington. Can you talk about the relationship there?
Well, I think the Siegleman case is the flip side of the cases where a gentleman like David Iglesias was removed from office because he would not pursue an election fraud issue against a Democrat, to impact the outcome of the election of a Democrat. What we see in Alabama is in this case, as a U.S. attorney who did the bidding of Karl Rove, who brought a case on what has been determined as flimsy evidence at best, false testimony that was given by a felon in exchange for a lighter sentence, knowingly put on by the prosecutor in the middle of an election.
Who was that prosecutor that took that action?
I was the wife of Karl Rove's business partner and political associate here in Alabama.
What's her name?
Laura Canary.
And is she still in office?
She's still here. Yeah, she's serving in the Bush administration.
Right. And her husband is doing what?
Her husband is president of the Alabama Business Council. But his title is not representative of what he does. He is a political paratrooper who is dropped into political situations where they need to be fixed, according to the chairman of the Republican National Committee. He is a person who cannot tolerate Democrats at any level, according to a recent magazine that was published. He served as Andrew Card's assistant. He was President Bush's special assistant. He ran the Bush Quail ground troops in the '92 campaign. You know, he is a high-level political operative with very close ties to Karl Rove. Business ties, political ties, social ties.
Do you see this as kind of a grand strategy across the country, or just in specific areas to kind of manipulate elections in favor of the GOP at all costs?
Well, I think it was. I want to make it clear that I don't think this is a GOP strategy. I think this is a Karl Rove strategy. Okay. This is Karl Rove driven. We have Republicans like the former United States Attorney General under George Bush, who has come forward and said, this is politics at its worst.
Right.
Something is wrong with these cases.
That's a good point.
We have attorney generals who have joined in this brief to the 11th Circuit. We have Grant Woods, who's a former attorney general, Republican attorney general from Arizona, who's on John McCain's national advisory team, who said they took me out for political reasons because they couldn't beat me fair and square.
What would you want our readers and the people that are watching your case to do to make sure that justice is served?
The American people deserve to know the truth. The American people deserve to know who was involved in perverting our democracy and subverting our Constitution. The American people deserve to know who hijacked the Department of Justice and used it as a political tool to retain or gain power. And those people need to be held accountable. The only place that the American people can turn to restore justice in this country and to preserve our democracy is the United States Congress. We have to ask Congress to find the truth and to hold those people accountable who are responsible for these perversions of justice.
Can you just back up a little bit and tell the viewers how you know that Karl Rove is behind this?
Well, we have both circumstantial evidence and we have the sworn testimony of a Republican lawyer who was part of the inner circle of the Republican administration in the state of Alabama, who swore to the United States Congress that she was on a telephone conversation where Karl Rove was put at the scene of this crime, where Karl Rove, according to the testimony, told the department, was involved in discussions with the Department of Justice to have me taken out by using prosecution as a political tool to win an election.